The first time he saw her, she was standing in her doorway, holding a mug and squinting against the late afternoon light. The kind of light that makes everything slow down, dust floating in the air, her hair catching the sun in quiet gold. Evan had just moved in next door, a box under one arm, his shirt damp from the heat. She smiled, not politely, but knowingly, as if she already understood something about him. "New in town?" she asked. Her voice had that low, calm tone that made you listen even when she wasn't saying much. "Yeah," he said, trying to sound casual, still figuring out where the light switches are. Her laugh was soft. "You'll learn." "Coffee." He almost said no. He had a dozen things to unpack, but she tilted her head just slightly, waiting. And something about the pause, that small space between her offer and his answer, made it impossible to walk away. "Sure," he said. Her kitchen smelled like vanilla and something floral. Maybe her perfume. Maybe the candle still burning by the sink. It wasn't a large space, but it felt lived in. A half-read book on the counter, a scarf draped over a chair, a photo frame turned slightly toward the window. She moved with an ease that made him self-conscious of his own stillness. Every gesture is deliberate, but not rehearsed. When she poured the coffee, he caught the faint tremor of her hand, a detail so small he might have imagined it. "Milk?" she asked. "Black's fine." She nodded, sliding the cup toward him. Their fingers almost touched, not quite, but it was enough to make him forget what he was supposed to say next. He studied her, not obviously, but enough that she noticed. Mid-40s, maybe, confident in a way that didn't ask for attention. The kind of woman who looked like she'd learned long ago how to keep her heart steady, even when the room wasn't. "You work from home?" he asked, trying to fill the silence. "Sometimes. My husband travels," she said, the word landing gently but leaving a trace. He nodded, pretending it didn't matter. But the moment she mentioned him, the air shifted. Not colder, just heavier. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed loosely, studying him the way someone might study a memory they didn't realize they still had. He caught himself glancing at her hands, the faint trace of a ring-tan line, though the ring itself was gone. She noticed. Her smile changed, softer, a little unsure. "You don't talk much," she said. "Guess I'm better at listening." "Dangerous quality," she murmured, half to herself. Her words hung there, quiet but deliberate. Outside, the evening light began to fade, shadows pooling along the edges of the floor. The world felt smaller, just the sound of coffee cooling and the occasional breath too long between them. She shifted, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her necklace caught the light. He looked up just as she did, and for a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Something unspoken passed, that small, electric recognition that things could change if either of them said one more word. She cleared her throat. "You should." But the sentence broke. A phone buzzed on the counter, sharp, insistent. Her gaze flicked to the screen, then back to him. She didn't reach for it. Instead, she whispered, almost as if reminding herself, "You should probably go." He nodded, but neither of them stood. The phone kept buzzing. The candle flickered out. And in that quiet, unfinished moment, he realized he wasn't sure which of them would move first, or what would happen when one finally did. It had been a week since that first coffee. 7 days of polite waves across driveways, short nods that lasted a fraction too long. He told himself he was imagining it. The way she lingered at the mailbox when he happened to step outside, the faint smile that always appeared when she said his name. Evan had plans that evening. Dinner with friends, something easy, uncomplicated, but instead, he found himself walking past her house just as the light rain began. The porch light was on, a soft glow, familiar now. She opened the door before he could knock. "Caught in the rain?" she asked, voice warm but measured. He laughed softly. "Guess I was hoping it would stop." She looked at him for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in before you catch a cold." Her living room was dimly lit, rain pattering against the windows. A jazz record hummed low in the background, the kind that fills silence without asking for attention. She handed him a towel, then poured 2 glasses of wine. "No coffee this time?" he asked. "Too late for coffee," she said. "Too early for good decisions." He smiled, but she didn't. The line had come out sharper than she meant, and she looked down, swirling the glass in her hand. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "That sounded heavier than it should." He shook his head. "It's fine." But it wasn't. The air between them had changed, something unspoken pressing at the edges. She sank into the couch, her legs folded under her. He took the chair across from her, though the distance felt deliberate. She glanced at him, then at the rain, as if weighing whether to let him closer. My husband and I, she started, pausing. We've been distant for a while. Not angry, just, she gestured vaguely toward the window. Different seasons, I guess. He nodded, careful not to interrupt. I used to think loneliness only came when you were alone, she continued quietly. Turns out, it can live right beside you. He didn't know what to say, but the truth of it landed somewhere deep in him. After a long silence, she asked, what about you? You have someone. He hesitated. Had. College thing. It ended before it started. Really? Why? She said I didn't know what I wanted. He smiled faintly. Maybe she was right. The rain softened to a mist. The record crackled. When she stood to refill her glass, her hand brushed his shoulder. Light, accidental, but enough to still him completely. She froze too, the motion half complete, as if realizing the line they kept almost crossing. He turned slightly, meeting her eyes. Neither of them spoke. For a moment, the sound of the rain filled everything that couldn't be said. Her quiet longing, his restraint, the ache of two people who should have stayed strangers but didn't. Her hand lingered on his arm, not an invitation, not yet. Just the simple, dangerous comfort of contact. When she finally pulled away, she whispered, you should go before it gets harder. He didn't move. And in that suspended breath, before either of them found the courage to step back, the record ended, leaving only the soft tick of the rain and the memory of her touch still warm on his skin. 2 days passed before he saw her again. Saturday morning. The sun was sharp, clean after the rain. He was out front washing his car, sleeves rolled up, when he heard her laugh. Low, warm, the kind of sound that travels even when it shouldn't. She was talking to someone near the fence. A friend, maybe. Her hair tied back loosely, a light summer dress that caught the wind. She noticed him the moment he looked up, but didn't wave. Just that quiet acknowledgement. A flicker of connection that said more than words could. When the friend left, she lingered by the hedge, pretending to inspect the flowers. You've been avoiding coffee, she said, half smiling. He grinned. You said it was too late for coffee. She raised an eyebrow. Maybe I changed my mind. Inside, the house was cooler than usual, the curtains drawn halfway. She set 2 cups on the counter, her movements brisk, almost nervous. He could tell she was trying to keep it casual, but her hands betrayed her. The spoon trembled slightly as she stirred. You shouldn't be here, she said suddenly, still facing the counter. I know. You're my neighbor. I know. She turned then, leaning back against the counter, crossing her arms as if to create space that neither of them believed in. This isn't, she began, but stopped. Her voice softened. You make it hard to forget things I promised myself I'd stop feeling. He didn't move closer, but his silence said enough. The air between them tightened. That same invisible pull, stronger now, harder to disguise. A door creaked somewhere down the hall. She straightened instantly, her eyes darting toward the sound. Someone home? He asked quietly. She shook her head. Cleaning lady. She's supposed to come next week. The tension broke. Not completely, but enough that they both exhaled at once. She laughed, half out of nerves. I'm not sure what's worse, she said. You being here, or me not wanting you to leave. He looked at her, really looked. You don't have to choose. For a heartbeat, neither did. They ended up sitting on the couch again, closer this time. She handed him his cup, fingers brushing his. Neither pulled away. He caught the faint scent of her perfume, mixed with coffee and rain still lingering in the air. She glanced down at their hands, her voice barely above a whisper. Evan. He turned toward her, too quickly. Their faces are inches apart. Her breath hitched, his pulse stuttered. The world outside blurred into a quiet hum. Her eyes flicked to his mouth, then back to his eyes. She didn't move, didn't need to. The space between them did all the talking. He leaned in slightly. Not enough to cross the line, just enough to feel it. Then a sound. A voice. Male. Distant, but close enough. Claire? You home? Her husband. She froze. The blood drained from her face. The moment shattered. Coffee forgotten. Hands pulling apart. Silence expanding like a bruise. Evan stood first. I should go, she whispered, already moving toward the door. already rearranging her face into something neutral. He hesitated just long enough for her to look back. That one last glance, heavy with everything they couldn't say. Then he was gone, slipping out the back door just as the front one opened. And for the first time, she realized how much she'd already risked and how impossible it would be to stop now. For 3 days, they didn't speak. No texts, no waves from the driveway. Only the echo of that voice, her husband's, still hangs in the back of her mind. Evan told himself it was over. He even avoided the street on purpose and took longer routes home. But avoidance only sharpened the ache. He'd catch himself replaying that last glance, the way her breath had trembled right before everything broke apart. Then one evening, as the light drained from the sky, he saw her on the porch, sitting alone, barefoot, a wine glass balanced in her hand. The quiet invitation of someone who didn't trust her own restraint but had given up pretending. He hesitated at the gate. She didn't turn, just said softly, "You can come up, if you want." The house was darker this time. Only one lamp lit, the kind of light that forgives too much. She didn't greet him, didn't smile, just pushed the half-empty bottle toward him. "Why did you come back?" she asked. He looked at her, really looked, the faint exhaustion beneath her eyes, the way her necklace rested just above her collarbone, catching the low light. "Because you didn't tell me not to," he said. She laughed once, quietly. "You think that's the answer?" He didn't, but it was all he had. Silence filled the room again. The kind that isn't empty. It hums, restless, waiting. She leaned forward, her elbow brushing his arm. The contact was light, but it sent something electric through him. "I keep trying to tell myself it's nothing," she said, voice low. "You're too young. I should know better." "You do," he said quietly. "I do," she agreed. "And it doesn't matter, does it?" He shook his head. She looked at him then, a long, unguarded look that said everything she'd been hiding. Regret, longing, guilt tangled together. The kind of look that comes only when someone stops pretending they can control what's happening. "Do you ever think," she whispered, "that something can feel wrong and right at the same time?" He nodded once. "Every time I see you." The rain started again, soft, rhythmic. The air thickened with it. She shifted closer, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Her fingers grazed his hand. It wasn't deliberate, not entirely, but neither of them pulled back. He could smell her perfume again, faint jasmine and wine. And he knew, with a kind of quiet panic, that he was past the point of pretending. "Claire," he started. "Don't," she breathed. "If you say my name like that, I'll forget everything else." Their faces were close now, too close. Her eyes flicked between his, uncertain, defiant. A single heartbeat passed, long enough for her breath to mix with his, long enough for the world outside to fall completely away. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Tell me to stop." He didn't. Her lips parted, not an invitation, just surrender. And right before the moment broke, before either of them could close the final inch, a shadow moved across the window. A silhouette. Someone watching. She drew back sharply, glass trembling in her hand. He turned toward the window. Empty now, but too late. The spell had snapped. Her voice came out in a whisper, almost to herself. "What have we done?" Neither answered. Because both already knew. Whatever line they thought they hadn't crossed, they just had. The next morning, the world looked unchanged. The same sun, the same neat row of houses, but nothing felt the same. Evan couldn't stop replaying it. The shadow in the window, the way she'd pulled back like she'd been burned. He hadn't slept. Every creak in his apartment had sounded like a knock at her door. By noon, he couldn't take it anymore. He went over. Her car was gone. Curtains drawn. Only the faint trace of her perfume lingered in the air near the porch. Jasmine and wine again, softer now, like a memory already fading. He was about to leave when her voice came from behind him. "You shouldn't be here." He turned. She stood a few steps away, arms crossed, face unreadable. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but her voice gave her away, low, careful, trembling at the edges. "I saw someone," he said quietly, "outside your window last night." She exhaled sharply. "You weren't supposed to see that." She walked past him, unlocking the door with hands that shook slightly. He followed her inside. "Who was it?" he asked. She hesitated, then took off her sunglasses. Her eyes looked tired, raw. "My husband," she said finally. "He came back early." The words landed like a dropped glass, quiet at first, then shattering. Evan stepped back. He saw us. I don't know, she whispered. Maybe. He didn't say anything. Just left again this morning. And you're okay? She laughed once, brittle. No, I'm not okay. For a long time, neither spoke. She moved to the window, watching the empty street. Her hand brushed against the curtain, lingering there as if she needed something solid to hold. I told him once, she said softly, that I loved this house because it felt private. Safe. She looked over her shoulder. It isn't anymore. He stepped closer, careful not to touch her. You could leave. She turned fully then, facing him. And where? With who? Her voice cracked, the first time he'd heard it break. The silence that followed was heavy. Not just guilt now, but something else. Something darker. She took a step toward him, almost unconsciously. Do you ever wish, she said quietly, that something could stay secret forever? That no one would ever know? He nodded. Every time I think of you. Her breath caught. A tiny sound, but enough. She was close now. Too close. He saw the tremor in her fingers, the way she clenched them to stop it. She brushed past him, pretending to reach for her glass, but her arm grazed his chest. Light, deliberate, and dangerous. I shouldn't want this, she whispered. I know, he said. But you do. She met his gaze then, and for the first time, there was no hesitation, only fear disguised as desire. Her phone buzzed on the table. A single message lit the screen. From her husband. We need to talk about last night. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. He watched her, heart pounding, as she read the message. Her lips parting, eyes widening, color draining from her face. She looked up at him, voice barely a breath. He knows. And in that fragile moment, the air between them turned from temptation to danger, but neither of them stepped back. Not yet. Evening came with a kind of stillness that felt wrong. Too quiet, too deliberate. The world outside her window moved on as if nothing had happened. Inside, the air was heavy, every shadow too sharp, every sound too loud. Claire sat at the edge of the couch, the phone still in her hand. The message glowed faintly, like an accusation she couldn't erase. Evan stood a few feet away, uncertain if he should speak. What will you do? He asked finally, his voice low, careful. She didn't answer at first, just set the phone down, her hands trembling as if even that simple act cost too much. I thought I could control this, she said quietly. That if I just kept it small, it wouldn't matter. He took a step closer. And now? She exhaled slowly. Now it matters too much. The confession hung between them, fragile, inevitable. Evan wanted to say something that would make sense of it all, but every word felt too shallow for what was happening. He could see it in her eyes. She was tired of pretending, tired of carrying a life that no longer fit. She looked up, meeting his gaze. He's not a bad man, she said softly. He's just not mine anymore. He swallowed hard. And me? You're not mine either, she said, and her voice broke on the last word. He closed the distance between them then, not out of impulse, but understanding. His hand brushed her cheek, tentative, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he touched her too. Firmly. She didn't move. Her eyes fluttered shut, her breath trembling. Evan, she whispered, the sound of his name more like surrender than warning. He leaned closer, not quite touching, but close enough to feel her breath, to hear the soft, uneven rhythm of it. This has to end, she murmured. I know. Neither of them moved. Then say it, she whispered. He hesitated, the space between them alive, vibrating with everything they hadn't said for weeks. Say goodbye, she breathed again, softer now. Before we forget who we are. He wanted to, but his hand was still on her face, his thumb tracing the edge of her jaw, memorizing it like a secret. When he finally spoke, his voice was unsteady. I don't think I can. Her eyes opened, wet, shining in the dim light. For a moment, time folded. The distance, the risk, the guilt, all of it blurred into something painfully human. Then she leaned in, until her forehead rested against his. Not a kiss, just the quiet weight of two people who had already gone too far. When she pulled back, her voice was barely audible. You have to go? If you stay, I won't let you. He nodded, but he didn't move. Not yet. The seconds stretched, one long heartbeat of what could have been. Then he stepped back. One step, then another. At the door, he turned once more. She was still sitting there, her hand pressed to her lips as if holding something in place. Outside, the night air was cool. Real. He closed the door behind him, gently, the sound of it final but not cruel. And though he didn't look back, he knew the story between them hadn't truly ended. It had only become something neither of them could name. And weeks passed. The world resumed its ordinary rhythm. Lawns trimmed, cars washed, mail delivered. From the outside, nothing had changed. Yet for Evan and Claire, everything had. She hadn't called. He hadn't tried to visit. But every morning, he found himself glancing toward her window, half expecting to see her silhouette. In the soft glow of the lamp, she always left on too long. One Sunday he did. She was standing by the window, hair loose, hands wrapped around a mug. No waves, no smile, just that stillness, quiet recognition, the kind that lingers when two people share something too private to name. He raised a hand, hesitant. This time, she returned it. A few days later, she appeared at his door. No warning, no pretense. The late afternoon light hit her just like that first day, soft, golden, full of memory. "Hi," she said simply. He nodded, unable to trust his voice. "I thought," she continued, "I should see you once more. Properly." He stepped aside, letting her in. The air between them felt different, not heavy now, just quiet. Honest. She looked around his small apartment, her fingers brushing the edge of a photo on his shelf. "You've unpacked," she said. "Mostly." "Good," she murmured, as if the word meant more than it sounded. They sat on the couch, not close, not distant. The silence between them had softened, losing its sharp edges. "I told him," she said after a moment. Evan looked up. "Not everything," she added quickly, "but enough. We're taking time apart." He nodded slowly. "Are you okay?" "I think so." Her lips curved into a small, real smile. For the first time in a long while. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't. She reached for his hand instead, tentative, gentle. Their fingers met in the space between them, resting there like a truth they could finally touch without fear. "It wasn't a mistake," she said quietly. "I know," he replied. "It just couldn't last. Maybe that's what made it real," she whispered. The light shifted as the sun began to set. She leaned her head lightly against his shoulder, not out of longing now, but understanding. His arm moved instinctively, resting around her in quiet acceptance. For a long time, neither spoke. The world outside was peaceful, no guilt, no shadows, just two people sitting in the afterglow of what almost was. When she finally stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For not making it harder." He smiled faintly. "You did that all on your own." She laughed, the same soft, low laugh that had started everything. Then she stepped closer and pressed her lips to his forehead. A kiss that wasn't about possession or regret, just gratitude, and something gentler that would stay long after she'd gone. When she left, the door stayed open for a few seconds longer than necessary, as if the moment itself couldn't quite let go. Evan stood there, watching the light fade down the street, a small smile on his face. Some stories don't end in grand gestures or promises. Some end like this, quietly, truthfully, with enough warmth to last beyond the silence. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?